So this isn't going to be the video that I'm sure most of you were hoping I would put up next, but that one will be coming. I'm here to talk about something that happened over the weekend, mostly the importance of being prepared. Over the weekend, family and I headed out and visited Wyoming, and had a little incident out there. Not with us, but we stopped off at a rest stop, and my wife had the kids. So I went in to use the restroom, and as I was in there, two gentlemen came in, and they were talking. I wasn't paying too much attention, but it seemed like something was going on. So I started paying attention. Basically, there was an older gentleman that had cut his arm open pretty good. As soon as I realized something was going on, I went over and see what was there and see if I could help anything. Turns out, it doesn't really matter how it happened, but he ended up slicing off a good chunk of his arm, skin, not like down to the veins or anything bad, but just like sliced it open and had a flap of skin, if you will, hanging. So, it was an open wound, that type of thing. So he was there, the other gentleman was there helping him clean it off, and I guess they were looking for towels or something to stop the bleeding, so I just said, hold on, I've got a little bag. I've got something in my car, I'll be right back. So I ran out to the car, grabbed, it's actually my wife's car, grabbed the bag that I had in her car, and was able to at least help until he could get to a hospital or a little clinic to get patched up good. Basically put some gauze on him and have him keep some pressure there just to help slow the bleeding. That's essentially all we could do at that point. But that's kind of what brought this video up, is what happened there and kind of what I learned from it. So backing up, it must have been 8-10 years ago, I decided to create little first aid kits. Grabbed little bags. This one, I think they were LA police gear, or whatever was on sale at the time, it doesn't matter, but a nice little bag that you could put your stuff in, put it in the trunk. And I made one for me, one for my wife, one for all my parents. Just put them in the car. Heck, the first time I'd used that was, we needed some aspirin or some allergy medicine, and I didn't have that. Well, I've since put that in there, but more or less for 7-8 years, these things have been sitting unused. We don't use them, you never need them. But turned out, I finally needed something that I'd put together, so be prepared. And basically this kit, it's nothing special. I've got Band-Aids, I've got wet wipes with the alcohol wipes, I've got some burn ointment, I've got, what's the other stuff called? I've got these Israeli bandage. Basically it's just a gauze and a wrap all in one. I've got a tourniquet in here, I've got some quick clot, I've got a ton of these gauze packs. I've got 3 different sizes. Basic stuff that you might need. Cold packs. I do have, scissors. I've got a knife. I've got some paracord in there as well. Just minor things that you might need. Neosporin. It's basically a boo-boo pack. If you're gonna get hurt, scrapes, the stuff you're gonna run into. You have this stuff handy. So I did. Lesson that I learned was my wife had hers in her car and she'd added stuff to it. Mine, I actually put everything in both of ours in certain locations so you could find it. She just dumped a bunch of stuff in there. So, we're trying to find a few things that I know I had put in these kits. Can't find them. Basically, she had just jumbled everything around and it wasn't organized in any meaningful way. So when you need something, it felt like it was taking me forever to find, 2 or 3 items that I knew I had in here, and that I actually needed. It probably took 15 seconds in the end, but what should have been go in, grab, and I'm done, I wasted a bunch of time trying to find things. So the takeaway I got when I got home, empty her bag, get rid of all the stuff that she'd added that is not necessary. And she had a few things in there that were, definitely good to have in as well. Get rid of the stuff that's unnecessary and organize it back the way it should be so that you can use it. So the whole point of this is be prepared, because you never know when you're going to need something. And I know it's a simple statement and you can't prepare for everything, but prepare for the basics. Get a little first aid kit in your car. If you've got, I had an old Mercedes and it had a first aid kit in there. You know what? That's a great start and it works. If that's what you have, you're fine. If you don't have that, or if you're able to, go get a little bag. These things are $20. I think it cost me $50 to make a little kit. You could go buy one already done, but get a little first aid kit. You're not gonna fix everything. You're not an EMT most likely, and if you are, you've got a bag, but just for regular Joes, get a little first aid kit. Get the basic stuff, the things that you're probably gonna use. I do have a set of medical shears in here, some tweezers, because you're going to have thorns and splinters and stuff to pull out. Band-aids, because if you have kids, you're always patching them up with Band-aids. The things that you might not have around the house, like I said, I have these gauze pads. Get these. These things work really well. You just put them on the wound and then tape it, right? And it's going to help slow the bleeding and help do a clot until you can get somewhere to get it fixed up. But it's a good idea to have that kind of stuff. Like I said, I've got these little ice packs. These are the instant ice packs. You crack them and it gets cold. So, it doesn't hurt, doesn't take up any space. Get that kind of stuff. I do have a tourniquet in here, which is probably more than I probably ever need. But, I go shooting quite a bit, so it's something that I might run into, right? So, and also when I go shooting, I have one on my belt, but that's besides the point. Either way, simple stuff, put them in here. You never know when you're going to need it. I do have these ace bandages, if you have a sprain, or if you just need to create a splint, right? You could do that with these. Do some basic stuff. Obviously you need a knife. Always good to have that if you don't have one around. And I always keep a Sharpie in every single bag that I have. You never know when you're going to have to write something down. I do have Neosporin. I've got the liquid Band-Aid, so for minor stuff. And then, like I said, I have all these little alcohol wipes. It's basically a wet nap, but they're alcohol pads, so you can disinfect whether it's a person or it's just your tweezers or whatever it is. And some gloves. You've got your latex or nitrile gloves. And then, simple stuff. Tape. I've got duct tape in here. I've got medical shears in here, tweezers. That stuff is all in here. But make a simple first aid kit. You never know when you're going to need it. And being prepared goes beyond just a little first aid. We've been going through this COVID thing, and if you remember back 3 months ago, there was the panic buying. Everyone was running to the grocery stores. I don't know about you, but my grocery store was empty. I would say that the only thing left on the shelves was vegan food, but even that was, picked over, and there was very little stuff on the shelves. So fortunately, we have been in the habit of always buying a little bit extra and storing it. So, even if it's not something that I really want, I've got enough food to get me by for a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it needs to be. And we'll be fine. Obviously, you don't have your fresh food, but you've got stuff and you'll get by. So, in a couple months back when that panic started going on, it's okay, well, I'm not going to have what I want. I would go buy my meats the day that I use it, that type of stuff. But you can make do just by planning ahead a little bit at a time and being prepared. So, for food, whether I go to Costco and I buy an extra case of, green beans, I'll throw that down in storage, and then I'll cycle through it. And when I run out of what's in the pantry, I'll bring the one from the basement on up and buy a new one to replace the one in the basement. Or if I'm buying something specifically for storage, like I've got, it actually does two things. When we go hiking, we have camping foods from Mountain House. They're dehydrated foods. So we have a bunch of those around too. And if we go camping, obviously we're going to grab those and use them, when we're backpacking and camping. But they're perfect to have for food around the house, just in case something happens, whether it's an earthquake or this pandemic stuff. Whatever it is, you're fine, you're set up, and you've planned ahead. So just in the most basic structure, my little adventure over the weekend was a reminder to be prepared. You never know when something's going to come up that you need it. And as long as you're prepared as best you can, you'll be able to sort it out. And it might not be you or your family. It might just be a stranger, like it was in this case. I'm not going to claim this was life-threatening or anything like that. But, guy needed some help, essentially first aid, but probably a little worse than most first aid stuff. And I was the only one there who had stuff. There was a dozen other people there, but most of them were standing around. The one guy who brought this older gentleman into the restroom was helping him. I actually spoke to that guy afterwards. He just didn't have his first aid kit. He said, yeah, I used to have one. I used to carry it. I never used it. And when I got my new car, I didn't put it in. So he's been driving around for a couple of years without one and never needed it. And you know what? I'm guilty of doing the same type of thing. So just get in the habit of keeping something like a first aid kit in your trunk. You should always have that. You never know when you're going to need it. Be prepared for things that are likely to occur in your life. And as much as I hate to say it, civil unrest, pandemics, that type of thing, you're going to see it happen. You don't know how it's going to affect you, but it's going to happen. So prepare for it. Get some supplies, whether it's a week or two worth of food or longer if you can. Keep that around. A lot of us, I know if you're watching this channel, you probably already concealed carry or are thinking about doing that. You know what? It's the same thing. It's the same reason I buckle up when I go into my car. I don't expect to get into an accident, but when it happens, and it will, when it happens, I want every measure that I could have reasonably taken in place to keep me safe. That's why my kids buckle up. It's why everyone else buckles up. It's why we do these things. It's just minimizing risk for severe damage, if you want to put it that way. So think about what's likely to happen in your life. Prepare for those events as best you can. You can't prepare for everything. But some of the most basic stuff, first aid, food, water, that type of stuff, this most basic stuff, I think everyone should go ahead and do that. And, if you're able to, do it for your family. I mean, like I said, when I first made these, I made them for me and for my wife. And while I was at it, I just made a bunch more and sent them off to my parents, my immediate family. Send them on off and, put each one of these in each of your cars. I mean, that's what you do. And it's legitimately, I knew when I was doing it, it'll probably sit there and never get used. Like I said, this has been maybe 8-10 years since I made these, and I have opened it up and used it maybe 3 times. So it's not something that I use often, but it's there when you need it. And this weekend was a reminder for me just to stay prepared, and it also got me to go through and recheck everything in here. Like I said, I keep mine organized. My wife didn't, and just slowed us down. So what if that had been something more serious? That it feels like an eternity that when you're trying to find something that you know is there and you can't. So keep things organized. Seconds count. So anyway, I know that isn't exactly what most of you were looking for, but just something that's fresh in my mind. Figured I'd put it out there. Hopefully someone finds it a little bit useful. Take care.